Hello and welcome. You're probably here for a very specific reason. You want to know how to reconstitute Tirzepatide, and we are absolutely going to walk through that process. But maybe more importantly, we're going to uncover some really critical warnings that anyone asking this question needs to hear.
So yeah, you're searching for a direct answer to that exact question, and I promise we will get to it. But to really understand the how, we've got to cover the what and, the why first.
So why does Tirzepatide even come as a powder in the first place? Well, it's because of a cool process called lipophilization, which is basically just a fancy word for freeze drying. This technique sucks all the water out, which makes the medication super stable and gives it a way longer shelf life. But of course, before you can use it, it has to be turned back into a liquid, and that's the whole reconstitution process. To do this, you need a pretty standard set of gear: the vial of the powdered Tirzepatide, a sterile solvent like bacteriostatic water, syringes, alcohol swabs, and of course, a really clean workspace. Seems straightforward enough, right? Well, hold on. Before we dive any deeper into the how-to part, we really need to pump the brakes. There is an absolutely crucial piece of information here that pretty much changes the entire context of this question. And it all boils down to this one simple question. What kind of Tirzepatide are you actually using? Because, and this is so important, not all Tirzepatide is the same, and the answer is critical for your safety. This right here is probably the most important thing we'll talk about today. You've got two main types of Tirzepatide. On one side, you have the official, FDA-approved versions, Mounjaro and Zepbound. They're made by Eli Lilly and come ready to go, no mixing required. But on the other side, you have something called compounded Tirzepatide. And the huge, glaring difference is that these compounded versions have not been looked at by the FDA for safety, quality, or if they even work. And look, this isn't just me saying this. Eli Lilly, the one and only company that makes the FDA-approved drug, has been putting out these really stark warnings about the unapproved versions. They sent out this official notice spelling out their safety concerns. And the letter, it does not mince words. It says that the sale of this unapproved, untested, compounded Tirzepatide is, and I'm quoting here, putting patients across Georgia at risk. That really just hammers home how serious this is. So when we actually break down what those risks are, the picture gets even clearer and, frankly, a little scary. We're talking about zero FDA review, the potential for dangerous contamination, getting the wrong dose, and even having untested stuff like B vitamins thrown in, which some compounders do with absolutely no clinical evidence. Now, you might be thinking, well, if it's so risky, how was this ever allowed? And that's a fair question. For a while, the official FDA-approved drugs were on the drug shortage list. And when there's a shortage, the law temporarily allows for some compounding. But that situation has changed. The shortage is over. This timeline shows you exactly how that legal landscape shifted. Back in late 2024, the FDA officially said the shortage was over. Now, some compounding pharmacies tried to fight this, but in early 2025, a U.S. district court shut them down. So the key takeaway here is that legal loophole for mass compounding these drugs, it's gone. Okay, before we go any further, I need to be absolutely crystal clear on this. This explainer is for educational purposes only. This is not medical advice. You have to consult with a qualified healthcare professional before you make any decisions about your medication. Please. All right, now that we have all of that really critical safety and legal context out of the way, let's get back to the mechanics of the process itself, looking at this purely as an educational overview. So the process is pretty methodical. Step 1 is all about sanitation: clean hands, a clean surface, and swabbing that vial stopper. Step 2 is carefully measuring out the correct amount of sterile water. For step 3, you inject that water slowly, aiming it against the side of the vial so it doesn't get all foamy. And finally, step 4, you just gently mix it by swirling or rolling it. You never ever shake it until the powder is completely gone. And here it is, the specific answer a lot of you probably came here for. According to the guides out there, for a 30 milligram vial of Tirzepatide, you would typically use 3 milliliters of sterile water. Now, while that gives you the direct ratio, just remember, this applies to those unapproved products we've been talking so much about. Okay, before we get to our final takeaways from all this, we're just going to take a quick break for a word from our sponsor. For those of you who might be conducting legitimate laboratory research, our partner Apollo Peptide Sciences is a really trusted source for high-quality, research-grade peptides. And I need to be perfectly clear here, these are sold for research purposes only and are not for human consumption. So for those specific research needs, you can use the code FDN15 to get 15% off. We've got the link for you in the description. So let's bring all this together. What is your final takeaway? Because really, when it comes down to your health, knowledge is the absolute foundation of safety. Okay, let's recap. The physical act of reconstituting, yeah, it's a pretty straightforward mixing process. But, and this is the huge but, it's a process that's only needed for non-FDA approved compounded versions. We've seen that the official manufacturer and the regulators have put out serious safety warnings about this stuff, and that legal loophole that allowed it to happen, it's closed. The bottom line is this: always, always verify the source and the approval status of any medication you're using. So you see, the really crucial point here is that we started with the question of how to mix this medication. But after everything we've looked at, the more important question, the one that really matters, is whether you should be using a version that makes you mix it at all. If you want to do your own research, and I really encourage you to, you can see all the documents for yourself. We have linked every single source we use to create this explainer right down in the description below. Hey, if you found this explainer valuable, please hit that like button. It really helps us reach more people with this kind of important information. And of course, make sure to subscribe so you never miss our next deep dive. Stay safe, and thanks for watching.